things change in the treatment industry.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is just like we talked about last time, insurance companies, they have to be able to be on the same page with us. They have to be able to know that giving somebody long-term treatment is better than paying for a relapse treatment over and over and over again.
Don't Hide the Scars, a weekly podcast focused on addiction and recovery. Created by the nonprofit PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, and founded by Flindt Andersen.
So we've been on a deep dive lately, documentary series, film, TV, things that are addressing what's going on with not only addiction, of course, drug supply, etc. And you stumbled upon Vice News, a pretty good documentary. I thought it was well done, called Benzo Dope and Tranq, the next wave of the overdose crisis. And so we're kind of not only doing a review and some notes, but some things that if we were in charge, what we would have included.
Yeah, of course.
So, boy, where do you want to start? I mean, it's just...
Well, I think let's start with the fact that it's called benzo dope.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know of too many people out there that have heard of that, especially in the circles that we hang around with. I don't know if DEA has heard of it or our Fort team here in Fresno. But after watching that documentary, this is scary stuff.
Yeah.
And I will say this. Again, I said this years ago. We have not addressed the benzodiazepine issue at all in this country. Even when the first overdoses that were coming into play were because of Xanax laced with fentanyl. Sometimes it was just a pure Xanax overdose, but then fentanyl was being laced on it. But we have not addressed the benzo issue, but now it seems like a very good time to start addressing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the extent, at least in my time here that we've talked about it, is those people that thought they were simply buying a Xanax, counterfeit Xanax or whatever it was, and overdosed with fentanyl, or it's laced with fentanyl. But it's becoming more prevalent. The request is there.
Yes,
that's the thing. It's like, this wasn't a request. These people, these overdoses,
right? These
accidental. This is a request for it.
Exactly. See, and then that even takes us back to the whole topic on accidental overdose.
Right.
It really does. See, you know, again, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 7 years ago, when people were losing their kids to overdose, yeah, that was an accident. But now the majority of these kids and young adults, they're asking for fentanyl. They know what they're buying. They're admitting that they know what they're buying with law enforcement.
Well, I think it's important that we point out, if people haven't caught this before, why are they mixing it with xylazine, aka Tranq, xylazine, fentanyl, or why with the benzo? Because there was in this documentary, I don't know what to call this person. I don't think lady fits, but she was a female drug dealer, and she's saying that her fentanyl clients, it wasn't like heroin where you could take it and you were good for maybe a 24, 18-hour cycle. But with fentanyl, they need it like every 3 hours. Right. So the things like the xylazine and the benzos seem to be giving it the legs. It's lasting longer. And thus, this is why the request.
Right. Because, again, fentanyl is a very short-acting drug. It's, as she said, it just doesn't have the legs. And what that means, it doesn't have the time span that heroin has or other opiates. But the benzos, they have the legs. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were even talking about how in my day that I was taking a lot of Soma. Right. Soma had legs, right? And I'd take 2 or 3 of those things, and man, I was gone. I literally looked like those people in this documentary that we saw. It's the same effect. Yeah. I'm even waiting for Soma to make a comeback again, because I know you can buy it in Mexico right over the border. It's easy to buy.
Yeah, and in reference to the people in the documentary, I mean, not only obviously the weight loss, but I mean the color gone from the
Right.
I mean, they look gray. This is why a lot of these, the zombie drug and stuff. The humanity has left them.
Gone.
One father that was interviewed on this documentary, 3 of his 4 kids in active addiction. and he wakes up every day with the fear of getting a call from the police, which means that, their bodies have been identified and it's been a 24-hour period.
Right.
You know?
I mean, think about that. I mean, this is when they say the zombie drug, they're not lying. That and again, when I took those Soma, that's what it turned me into.
Sure.
Literally, I'd be sitting in a chair and just simply do this in a matter of 10 minutes. Drool coming out of my mouth and not even being able to be woken up by somebody.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, because of again, the user, the end user doesn't have to buy as much fentanyl because that benzo keeps the high going.
Right.
It just keeps the high going.
And this is in to let people, give the clarity on it. Fentanyl, we can see the similarities with heroin. It's just you nod that, out.
Right.
Like you're useless. I mean, it's sad in this
Useless.
documentary, a young lady that's sitting there that's sadly, hooked and starting to get the different, wounds and blisters on her face. And she talks about having used, waking up, and her pants are pulled down.
Right.
That it's quite clearly that somebody sexually violated her during this. They talked about, I forget what term they use about people. They were just easy to rob.
Right.
Because you're knotted out. You're gone to the
Right.
world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's so much, if you want to call it extracurricular activity that will go on, criminally, to a human being because they're just knocked out with this stuff. And as I watch that thing, again, I mentioned this to you beforehand. It seems like a lot of these documentaries are going to the shady parts of town, the streets where, very few businesses are there. And, that's where the addict is hanging out. And remember, I told you, I said, why do they always go to these parts of town? Why aren't they going to the good parts of town where this is happening? And it's happening more than anybody realizes. It's happening, north of Herndon Avenue and north of Shaw Avenue.
If we're talking Fresno, and those are nicer, more affluent areas.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's what I started thinking about. If you notice the one guy on there that said he was an ex-athlete,
mm-hmm.
These people some of them came from these nice areas of town,
mm-hmm.
and this is where they're winding up.
Yeah.
But I don't want people to forget, just because these documentaries are showing people with no teeth, looking like zombies, the open sores on their bodies, this is just not people that come from another neighborhood. These are not just people that may not be in that socioeconomic class that a lot of people are in. This is happening again in our area, north of Herndon, in the good neighborhoods, in the good shopping centers. You may not see some of that during the day, but you're going to see it at night.
Yeah.
New Perceptions North, the premier drug and alcohol treatment and recovery center in Central California. A full continuum of medically supervised, top-quality care with programs for detox, inpatient residential treatment with dual diagnosis, intensive outpatient treatment, sober living, support groups, and more. With 50-plus years of combined experience and sobriety, Flindt Andersen and Thelma Gatlin Wilson provide adult men and women with the highest caliber of professional health care, treating each client with compassion and respect, and a safe, comfortable environment. To begin the process of recovery, to proudly create and sustain a life without addiction, call 559-978-1507 or visit newperceptionsnorth.com.
Well, and the interesting thing, if we're talking about the same subject in this documentary that we reviewed, when the investigator goes to talk with him, he's in a nicer area of Canada.
Yes.
The guy's dressed head to toe in Nike gear.
Yes.
And he makes reference to, I'm 39. I don't expect to live till 40.
Right.
And sure as hell, that's exactly what happens in this documentary.
Right.
So
he died a month before he turned 40.
Yeah. And I think it displays that really well, that, that it's like, you can see it. This is a nice area, clearly somebody's still supporting him.
Right.
Whatever that looks like. I don't know, parents, grandparents, whatever it may be, sadly. Right. And, so it's not. And it's so easy, just so easy to get.
It is. The one thing that I hadn't heard of, and I think this is something that we here at Pain are going to have to address with Assemblyman Patterson, is the fact that we've already tried to address into the state legislature about stronger jail sentences for drug dealers and stiffer sentences. And it showed in the documentary that this lady, this drug dealer, she was making her fentanyl with purple food coloring to differentiate between fentanyl and cocaine. So if that is truly happening with other drug dealers, and let's say law enforcement goes into a neighborhood because of an overdose, they find the drug, and if that drug is pink or blue or purple or green or whatever, that drug dealer now made it that way to differentiate between fentanyl and cocaine. And what that means is that drug dealer knows that he or she was selling fentanyl, and that person died of it. So there's no more of this excuse that they didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's clear.
It's about as clear as it can get on that front. And so that's the next thing that I'm going to address with Assemblyman Patterson and some of the other people around here, to maybe add that into a bill. And maybe that will wake a few people up in Sacramento. I still don't know, and probably not, but we're sure as hell going to give that one a go.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because I was thinking about that this morning, and what you're referring to is situation you yourself, Pam Smith from here, Assembly Member Mr. Patterson, and there was somebody on that, what is it, State Safety Committee? I forget what
Public
it's called.
Health and Safety Committee.
Yeah, that they stated, I can't believe all drug dealers. How was it said?
That was Assemblyman Zuber, from a Democrat from Santa Monica, stated, and I quote, "I just can't believe that every drug dealer is lacing every pill with fentanyl. Moron."
So I was thinking about that on my drive here this morning, and I was thinking he's either egotistical or ignorant.
Ignorant.
Yeah.
I think a combination of both.
I think, I'm just like, how
stupid are you?
Yeah.
That's the question. How stupid are you? You might as well tattoo stupid on his forehead.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is.
It's just the ignorance and arrogance of it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
remember when the Vice people were talking to the gentleman that, and I can't remember his title or his name, but talking about how they got China, to stop importing or exporting fentanyl and the properties of it into the United States back in 2019.
Yeah, it was part of the Trump's initiative.
Right. And I'm sure some of it was halted, right? Yeah. But come on. I mean, but what he didn't address, and the question wasn't asked again. This goes back to my statement that everybody is asking the wrong questions here.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody are not asking the right people the right questions.
Yeah.
Why wasn't the question asked? You've got all this stuff coming in, and it even showed it in the documentary that now the Mexican cartels, they purchase the chemicals from China, and then they're manufacturing them in Mexico and bringing them over our border. Why didn't anybody ask this politician about the borders and what the effect our open border policy is having on the drug trade, and that's killing our citizens.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the fingers in the dam, right?
Yeah.
And you're leaving some huge gaps. We're not talking about, I can put that in and another small leak comes. You're talking about huge freaking gaps.
You're talking about dams exploding.
Yeah, we don't have a cork big enough to stick in this.
We don't. We just don't. So, again, until everybody starts asking the right questions here. Oh, by the way, they never brought up treatment once in this documentary.
No.
I watched 3 other ones today, and they didn't bring up treatment in it either. And I think the reason for that is that nobody has an answer.
Yeah. Well, and I it's like we've talked, we've got to keep the awareness going. Yes,
of course.
But then what about the beyond that part?
Yeah. How do you help these people? Well, again, the majority of the people that they interviewed in this thing, I believe that if somebody came up to them and said, "Hey, John, we want to help you." I truly believe the addict at that point in their addiction, a lot of times they're going to say, "Okay." But that person has to understand, and we have to get to a point where we need to keep that person for a long amount of time.
Yeah.
This isn't a 30-day fix. I'm going to keep saying this till the day I die. It's not a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day fix. Somebody that has been in their addiction, especially with fentanyl, anything related to fentanyl, now with the benzos in it, it's going to take a year or longer for somebody to even have a shot at not going back to using drugs again.
Yeah.
And until we can reach that point with our society, that no questions are going to be answered, and we're just going to have more people dying.
Yeah. Well, and it's how do we get the politicians to get on board? Who would decide this shifting of incentives? You know what I'm saying? Because it does have to be. It's just a reality. I mean, we've talked about it here on, local police department, drug seizure assets, things like that, going back into their system, what they can and can't do with it. Totally get it.
Right.
It's not, I'm not sitting, that's the system that is. So you're going to take advantage of it.
Right.
Of course. But how do we shift that to something else? So there's incentives in different areas.
Right.
Because otherwise it's situations like you and I've done for our own, self-torture, calling some of the local behavioral healths in different areas, being on hold for an hour and a half, never getting through to an actual person, nobody the after-hour lines, because as we've talked, you and your addiction, me and mine, there was never any moments of clarity between the 9 and 5.
Right.
Very, 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 very rarely, if at all. And I can't personally think of any, but I can sure think it's in 2 a.m.s, 3 a.m.s.
You bet.
And so how do we get that to shift?
Yeah.
So there is an incentive, and let alone working with private treatment centers that can do it better, more long-term.
Right. No, I mean, look, you and I have been sitting here preaching to the choir on this thing for a long, long time. And I don't know how we get the shift in other people's thinking about this.
Yeah.
Because we are just prolonging. I really believe we are just prolonging the problem. We're prolonging addiction. We're prolonging everything as it relates to this. Look, and there might be a few people that get upset with what I'm about to say. But listen, when we're watching that documentary and we're looking at that group, okay, that is going out in the community and giving them Narcan and giving them fentanyl test strips and clean needles and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. We have to ask ourselves, are we prolonging the addiction?
Yeah.
Let's take away the fact that I think we're sending the wrong message especially to our younger generation, by saying, yeah, here's a fentanyl test strip. When you're out on Saturday night, and gee, Johnny, if you decide to do cocaine, I'm your dad. I'm going to give you this fentanyl test strip to make sure you test your cocaine so there's no fentanyl in it. I mean, seriously, what kind of message are we sending there?
Yeah.
Okay. The clean needle thing, I have to take a little issue with that, because are these people picking up needles off the street and using them to shoot themselves up with? Of course they are. Okay. And nobody wants to see anybody get Hep C or HIV or anything else. Nobody wants, I certainly don't. But what kind of message are we sending? If you don't understand the addict, you're not going to understand what I'm talking about. You give that addict a clean needle without offering treatment, a replacement like we talk about, they're going to continue to use.
Yeah.
I don't care that in Switzerland that they are now giving medical grade fentanyl to opiate addicts that are out there still using, or I can't remember if it was Sweden, that they're giving heroin, high grade heroin, to ex-heroin users. What do you mean ex? They're still heroin users. That addict is still going to use.
Yeah.
Now they just know they may not die today.
Yeah.
So again, some people may have a problem with that, and that's okay. Have a problem with it. But if you don't know the addict, you don't have any right to say anything, in my opinion, about this.
Yeah.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call Parents and Addicts in Need at 559-579-1551 or check us out online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media at Pain Nonprofit. Please subscribe to the podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. To donate, please click the link in the description and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.
In the documentary, some, amazing people going out and trying to be, there's a gentleman that they spoke to, Tranq addict, and he had lost 2 fingers. A third was about to go. And, these amazing ladies are out, cleaning people up and being of service.
That I don't have a problem with at all.
Being of service in that way. But like you said, they're doing this amazing thing and hoping these people, that some compassion comes in and maybe that clicks. But really, it's like, wouldn't it be if the state of Pennsylvania, because this was taking place in Pennsylvania, somehow empowered these ladies to go out, do that, and have conversations with these people, and somebody raises their hand and said, yes, I want help, and they're off and going.
Right.
How do we make this happen?
How do we make this happen?
That is $1 million question.
$1 million question. And it's going to stay that way until things change in the treatment industry.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is just like we talked about last time, insurance companies, they have to be able to be on the same page with us. They have to be able to know that giving somebody long-term treatment is better than paying for a relapse treatment over and over and over again. Don't these insurance companies understand they're going to be saving money in the end? That's the incentive.
Well, and I think maybe that's a thing, too, that I don't know if it's been approached is maybe this is something to ask Mr. Patterson. Like, has there been any bill approached or tried to be created either federally or state? Of course, we're in California, for those watching and listening, to where the insurance company, maybe they get some sort of tax break if they partake longer. Do I think that's what should happen? No, I kind of believe in you do the right thing, you do the right thing, but we're talking about the insurance industry, so out the window.
Right.
But if you did offer, and
that's, by the way, that subject has been broached.
Okay.
And yes, we are going to do something. It's on a little summer break right now. So once that's over with, then I'm going to start working with some of his staff on that. So yeah, that needs to come into play. And then of course, the second thing needs to come into play is again, are the county run facilities, in my opinion, they need to be able to work with the private treatment centers.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we work together on this to provide a level of care for these people that is actually going to do some good.
Yeah. And you can't tell me, I mean, 911 has 24-hour response, 811. You can't tell me that we couldn't put something in place in each and every state 24 hours a day to where you can respond. And I know there's a national helpline and people are aware of it, but you and I called it.
We called it.
And you get 97 prompts.
Right.
And
then switched over to your own county.
And yeah, before you can even get to your own county.
Right.
And then when you get there, you're going through a whole nother set of prompts.
Yes.
And yeah, when you're an irritable addict that, at whatever phase, especially if you're getting dope sick, you're done.
You're done.
You're hanging that up.
Right.
Screw this.
Right.
Exactly. So yeah. They need to talk with us more.
Yeah, they really do.
Because you can't tell me that it would be that much more costly, or there wouldn't be funds in a totally different. You can't tell me that.
Well, look what Biden did. He approved now Congress hasn't voted on it yet, but he proposed a bill, and I can't remember the exact number, but
like $83 billion,
something like that, for Narcan, fentanyl test strips. What else was there in that? Clean needles.
Yeah. So a lot of the harm reduction modality stuff. Yeah.
Right. I mean, what would happen if you took that $83 billion and actually put that into treatment?
Right.
What would happen if we actually put treatment centers in place of the safe injection sites? I mean, why isn't anybody talking about that?
Yeah.
Why is it always about doing something half-assed?
Yeah, because I mean, you can, and this personally, medication-assisted treatment. I don't know any legitimate place that takes in someone that is a opioid addict, heroin addict, whatever it is, and doesn't go through a process.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
These again, I'm going to keep saying it. These are the questions that aren't being asked or addressed in any way, shape, or form that I can see.
Yeah.
Why are we always taking the easy way out? Why are we always putting a Band-Aid on something? Why are we always putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound? Because that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're not covering the entire wound.
Yeah, because we already know the reality of addicts are going to use. That's what we do.
What we do
when we are not a person in recovery, we are a person in that.
That's right.
That's
right.
It's not a thing you can half-ass, and I think that's what bothers you, me, and so many other people is you can't half-ass it.
Right.
And it is kind of, and I'm not talking about the people that go out, and I get. We have compassion, but there has to be a point along where we're doing more than just helping them sustain existence.
Yes.
I mean, as if there is much of an existence. I don't know. I don't call being out on a street corner.
That's not an existence.
Yeah.
I mean, all you have to do is look at these people. All you have to do is watch a documentary like this. This is not existence. This is the land of the walking dead.
Yeah.
Is what it is. They have no life. Understand that. They have no life. They stay in that 2-block area that we talk about. They don't move. They don't, just like the dad said, they don't go to Christmas dinners, Thanksgiving dinners, birthdays, nothing.
And you can't even trust them to be there.
You can't.
Because he even said it. They're just takers now.
They'll take anything that's not nailed down.
Yeah.
So this is getting worse by the day. And something has to give somewhere. It has to give somewhere. Because these people, I mean, it almost reminds me of the 80s in Florida, in Miami, with the cocaine wars and what happened there. There were so many people that died whether it was from overdose or blown away on a street corner somewhere, the cartel wars that went on, that Florida's morgues were so overrun with bodies that they were using McDonald's and Burger King refrigerated trucks to store the bodies in. That's a fact.
Yeah.
That Ohio, I know for a fact, in some of their cities, that's what they're doing now with overdoses from fentanyl.
Yeah.
They don't have room for the bodies. Why isn't everybody up in arms about that? I go back to my seal story about the 6 seals that showed up dead on the Santa Cruz beach. We send out the National Guard to figure out why these 6 seals are dead. We've got bodies in McDonald's refrigerated trucks and nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with that picture.
Yeah. Well, we put the link for the documentary in the description so people can watch it.
Yep.
It is well done. It is powerful. But yeah. Maybe we need to get a hold of Vice, I'm pretty sure Canadian channel, and see if we can get Flindt Andersen to host one of these things,
I
right?
think we ought to do that. Yes, I do.
But they do a good job.
Yeah,
there is some other alarming things that they share, as far as in the U.S., certain states are seeing certain types of drugs, and they're calling it the poly drug wave. So this is synthetic drugs that are multiple different forms of synthetic drugs that are being mixed into each other, and that's kind of well, we're seeing that next potential wave. It's just all manufactured. We already knew that was going away. Right. But
yeah, well, no, we knew that's coming. I mean, it's even they said it in the documentary. At some point, heroin will be gone.
Yeah.
Because somebody's always going to think of something stronger, easier to make.
Yeah.
And they don't care.
No.
I mean, just look at the quote lady drug dealer in this thing.
Yeah,
she grew up in it. If you remember what she said, her mom was selling drugs when she was a little girl. So this lady has been, I mean, almost desensitized by it.
Yeah,
and now she's taken over from mom, and she's making what they say $15,000 every 3 days.
Yeah.
Now you got to ask yourself, why would she stop?
Oh, of course. Well, if you're already in that environment, so it's already been set as a norm. So
$30,000 a week.
Yeah. So your barometer of morality's gone. And I mean, you can see it's not a justification. It's her total belief. Well, I have Narcan on hand, and I do let people shoot up here, and I've Narcaned. Yeah. Forget how many. She's like, I Narcan 10 people alone last week. Right. So this isn't even like, whoa, your morality screwed up. It's like, no, that is this person's morality. That is their complete understanding.
That's exactly what it is.
She doesn't see the look at herself as the villain. She looks at herself because she provides pure fentanyl only, doesn't mix it with anything, that it's less dangerous. So she's doing a good and noble thing.
Right. Wow. How screwed up are we?
Yeah. How are we going to beat that? How are we going to beat that person?
Right.
And how do you tell me that's not criminal?
By the way, and if she goes to jail, she's going to get out in a day.
Yeah, I don't know what the Canadian system is.
I don't know what the Canadian system is, but if she was here, getting arrested for these people is a cost of doing business.
Mm-hmm.
But they already know they're going to be out. So how do you stop somebody? Do the math. $30,000 a week. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, $120,000 a month. So she's pulling in probably, $1.23 million, and it's got, hey, sure, you're a drug dealer. I don't know about Canada, but I'm pretty sure they're not coming after you tax wise.
Right. So that's all cash.
Yeah.
Right.
It's probably hiding somewhere. And if you have a lawyer and the laws work the same there, that you can't incriminate your client, well, we saw it as much as it's fictionalized with Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Well, maybe holding on to some of that cash and taking a little bit as needed.
You bet.
So they're smart.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, so until those laws apply, where when a drug dealer gets caught, that they are literally doing some serious time, and if that client of theirs died because they knew it was fentanyl that they were selling, I have no problem in first-degree murder charges being filed against these people. And if the death penalty is in play in whatever state, then by all means use it. I have no problem with that whatsoever. If the death penalty does not come into play in states, then you max out whatever the time is.
Yeah.
Follow the laws, but follow the laws.
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
Yeah, it's disheartening, but we got to keep fighting.
We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep on until hell freezes over. Yeah. That's just the way it is. That's what we're going to do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys, of course, for watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Hey, please leave us a rating and a review there on those platforms. And if you're on YouTube, give a thumbs up, leave a comment. You have some questions, things that you would want us to address. Maybe you want us to watch a different documentary, movie, series. We're going to be doing these a little more often because, admittedly, you and I like our television.
Yes, we do.
And we enjoy, documentaries, movies, TV series, etc. on this topic. So we'll be doing some more.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Flindt.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call Parents and Addicts in Need at 559-579-1551 or check us out online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media at Pain Nonprofit. Please subscribe to the podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. To donate, please click the link in the description and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.